Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about the Roman army. How was the Roman army organized? Thirty legions make up the whole Roman army. One legion had between 4,000 and 6,000 soldiers, 10 cohorts, led by a legate. One cohort is made of about 400 legionaries. That's a lot. One cohort was double-sized. 80 legionaries made a century. 6 centuries made a normal cohort. The first cohort had 5 double centuries. Each century was led by a centurion. The main part of the Roman army was the legion. This was made up of 5,000 men under the command of the legate. The legion was divided into 10 cohorts. Each cohort was made up of 6 centuries. The centuries were commanded by a centurion. Centuries originally had 100 men. The centurions were very important men. They were responsible for training the soldiers under their command and making sure everybody obeyed their orders. Some were very cruel. We can see here that this person is a soldier, this person is a centurion, and this person is a legate. Legion made up of around 4,800 men, divided into 10 cohorts or around 480 men in each section. One cohort was made up of 6 centuries, and each century had 80 legionaries. Each century had 80 men. Who else was in the Roman army? Each century had its own emblem or standard. This was carried by the standard bearer, a very experienced and trusted soldier. To lose your standard was a great disgrace. And we can see the standard bearer here holding the standard. Roman soldiers. Roman soldiers were the ones who fought in the Roman army. The soldiers had very heavy armor. And you can see this Roman soldier. He has his shield, his scarf, his armor cuissons, his helmet, his belt, his tunic, his dangly straps, and his army sandals. You can see here some of the main things you should know for the Roman army uniform. The dagger, the spear, the shield, the army suit, and the helmet. Now let's see the sandals. What were the sandals made of? They were made of leather with metal studs on the bottom. Leather is very soft. Leather is hard wearing. Roman soldiers had to march many miles to march. Studs stopped soldiers slipping on mud. Studs prevent the soles from wearing out. An extra weapon, they could stamp on their enemies. How does it work? Sandal straps tied around the leg so they didn't fall off. Studs ripped into soft surfaces. The disadvantages were they were not warm for Britain. It's very cold in Britain a bit, so their feet would get a little bit cold. Studs would be very slippy on wet stone, so that's a bad thing because Roman roads were made out of stone. The helmet. What was it made from? Iron with brass decorations on the main helmet and the cheek plates. Advantages. The helmets were beaten out of a single piece of metal, therefore providing greater protection. They were cheap and easy to produce. Officers were able to demonstrate their importance and be easily followed by wearing chests of horsehair on the top of their helmet. How does it work? The outer ring provides protection for the forehead and prevents the sword from blows and penetrating the helmet. The rear of the helmet also has a guard to protect the neck. The disadvantages were it was very heavy. The helmets were very heavy and they were also very uncomfortable for the Roman soldier or anybody who's wearing it. Shoulder pads. What was it made from? Soft iron on the inside and mild steel on the outside, which allowed the plates to become hardened against damage without becoming brittle. Advantages. Overlapping metal strips were fastened with hooks and laces at the front and hinged at the back. Internal vertical leather straps enabled the soldier to bend easily. How does it work? Shoulder plates were made out of curved hinge pieces of metal, which enabled the soldier to move freely yet remain protected. As you can see in the image, these little leather straps which enabled the soldier to move his arms. The disadvantages were the upper forearms were not protected. As you can see, they were hot and very heavy in battle. So that's another disadvantage. Shield. What was it made from? The shields were generally made from wood, with additional layers attached to create a curve. The shields were covered in leather and linen, then decorated elaborately. Advantages. The hand grip on the inside of the shield was protected by a metal boss, which could also be used to push into an enemy and knock them down. How does it work? It was semicircular, so any objects thrown at the soldiers would be rebound to the other side. The Roman soldiers used the shields to create battle formations, like turtle, as we'll soon discuss. Disadvantages. They were very heavy and absorbed water during rainfall, making them even heavier. Body armor. What was it made from? Multiple individual iron bands wrapped around the chest and shoulder. Advantages. Gave good protection and allowed some movement. The strips of metal could be replaced if they were damaged. The soldier plates were hinged to allow movement. Disadvantages: soldiers needed help to put on the body armor as it was so heavy, probably servants or slaves. How does it work? The iron bands were attached together by leather internal strips. Additional curved metal strips were positioned on the soldiers to provide extra coverage. Now the tunic. What was it made from? The military tunic was made out of wool, cotton, or linen, depending on the climate. Advantages: the tunics were created with great care and made to measure for each individual soldier. The length of the tunic reflected the soldier's rank and authority within the army. Disadvantages: it did not protect anything in hostile weather conditions. How does it work? It has a wide undergarment which was worn underneath the body armor to protect the body from armor and allow freedom in movement in the battle. Now the grain protection. What was it made from? Leather strips which were decorated. Advantages: the belt made a jangling noise when the soldier moved. This noise created by hundreds of soldiers as they marched was believed to have intimidated their enemies, that means scared them. Disadvantages: the actual protection provided to the grain area was actually minimal. How does it work? The grain protection was a belt worn around the tunic. It was decorated with leather straps and provided protection to the grain area. Now, can you think you can solve this? I'll give you a few minutes. Pause the video if you like. Okay, now let's discuss. Okay, the first one is the helmet. Next, the woolen tunic. Next, the soldier plates. And next is the body armor. And next is the grain protection. And you can see the round rectangle. Well, that's the shield. And finally, but not least, the sandals. Now we have training, the most important part. Most soldiers join between 18 and 20 years old. That's actually not very old for a young man or teenager. There were three 30-kilometer marches each month. On each march, the legionary would carry 25 kilos of equipment. That's a very heavy amount, and that's 30 kilometers. That's a very harsh training, but worth it. Training. Legionaries would also learn drill or marching. This was very important learning maneuvers in battle. New recruits were given shields and swords twice as heavy as the real thing. So that's extremely heavy and difficult, like torturing when the new recruits actually did it. A legionary's training. A legionary must learn to build camps, swim, sling stones, ride horses, mount and dismount horses fully armed with his shield and no stirrups. Do a drill once a day, twice if he was a recruit. marched 30 kilometers 3 times a month wearing his armor, which may weighed 20 kilograms. So that means 5 kilograms were actually like some other equipment. Finally, learned to use a sword, a spear, and a fighting smokes battle with weapons he had covered with tips for safety. So mock battles were fake battles with their own army, and they also covered the armor and the shields and weapons. All they covered it because they're actually going to throw it and use it, but they had to cover it so they don't kill their own army. Roman soldiers lived in barracks. 8 soldiers shared 2 rooms, one for sleeping and one for cooking and equipment. Bread, meat, biscuits, and fermented fish gut sauce every day. So that's not the kind you would eat every day. Who else was in the army? Let's see. Auxiliaries. These were doctors, clerks, engineers, scribes, mapmakers, and even soldiers from lands conquered by the Romans who volunteered to fight for the Romans. Many of these had special skills like cavalry soldiers, stone shot slingers, or archers. Thought of Romans as second-class soldiers, paid less and not trained as regularly. After 25 years, they became citizens and their children too, if they survived. And now, the greatest question you might ask: why one become a Roman soldier? First, you will be fit, strong, and brave and impress all of Rome. If you were brave, you would be rewarded with a laurel crown. You would earn a good valuable wage. Uniform, weapons, and equipment all provided for you. While you are in the army, part of your wages were saved so you could retire in comfort. You could earn extra money from robbing those who you defeated. And finally, travel the world. You explore every place like Rome, of course, France and Britain, and everywhere the Romans have conquered. Now comes to the tactics. The first thing Romans tried to do when they were conquering another country was to choose the time and place of the battle. The Romans would arrive, set up a camp, and then send a letter to the local ruler asking him to submit a Roman rule. The Romans never fought unless they had to. This gave Romans time to rest, eat, decide how to and when they would attack. They researched the strengths and weakness of their opponents and chose strategies to shoot the exhaustion. Military maneuvers. First, as I said, we got to learn about the tortoise. The tortoise was used to advance towards the enemy by creating a shell out of shields around the soldiers, just like a tortoise. The wedge. The wedge was used to divide the enemy by the legion, creating a V shape and forcing it through the crowd. It's like a real wedge which divides the wood, just like the Roman wedge divides the enemy, so easier to attack. The repel cavalry. The repel cavalry was used to protect against Roman soldiers on horses. Soldiers used their shields as protection and threw their spears at the enemy. The orb. The orb was used when the army had been split. The legionaries would protect the archers and the officers, forming a circle with their shields. Now let's see the orb. Type defensive means protection for the army. When used, if part of the army had been split off from the main group or encircled by the enemy, the legionaries formed a circle around the officers and the archers. These were the most important people, using their shields as protection, seen as desperate last stand. Now let's see the repel cavalry. Type defensive means protection. When used to combat a cavalry charge. How it works, the soldiers form a line with the men at the front of crouching down, with their shields in front of them and their spears stick out of the gaps. Men behind put their shields over the top of the men in the front row, ready to throw. The spears would stop horses running at the soldiers, often causing them to retreat. Those retreating would knock into the cavalry behind them, causing a domino effect and making themselves easy targets for archers. Now let's see the tortoise. Type defensive. When used to advance but remain protected from spears and arrows. The tortoise is a square. The men at the front hold their shields in front of them, and the men at the sides hold their shields to the sides. The men in the middle hold their shields above them. The men have to move close in to ensure that their shields were touching so that no missiles could get in and injure any soldier. This was very effective and it's also one famous type. The wedge. Type attacking. When used exaggerately to drive the enemy. The centurion is at the front of the V and the legionaries form the sides. The V, they stay close together to stop the enemy from breaking the line. As the wedge advances, more soldiers join the ends to divide the enemy even further, breaking the enemy formation. This was the key for the winning on the Roman battlefield. So, as you know, this type is attacking. Now, the seizures. Seizures. Of course, you won't face your enemy on the battlefield. Sometimes they hole up in town and refuse to leave. Luckily, starving them out is the thing of the past, thanks to useful technology invented by the ancient Greeks. The battering ram, the mechanical crossbow, the scorpion catapult. The siege tower and the onager. Setting up a camp. Camps have two purposes: to keep you safe and to impress the enemy. Seeing an entire tent village, you go up into no time to involve anyone. It helps that everything is always at the same place. And now, a Roman favorite battle formation. You can see the enemy in little bit grey color. Then you can see the first auxiliaries and the infantry. the reserves, and then the commanders are near the back. And you can see the cavalry are near the sides, ready to attack. And now you can see the boss, first line, the elite troops, weak, average troops, weak, and average troops again. Then the second line, the elite troops, the trainees, selected troops, the trainees again, and the good troops. Then we also have the boss. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. And like this video too. See you in the next video. Bye bye.